Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Kicking It with the KTrain, where I chat with people who help me keep an eye on my vision. We were chatting just before we hit record, and you know, again, like I don't think I've talked to this guy. We've exchanged a lot of text messages over the years, but I don't think we've sat down and had a good proper chat in quite a few years. But I am super pumped and excited to introduce everyone to my old college wrestling captain. He was the college wrestling captain for the University of Central Florida when I was on the team at least my freshman year. He was in the process of achieving his fourth time All-American NCWA status at that point. But my good buddy Steven DeAugustino. DeAugustino, man, what's up?
Hey man, thanks for having me on. Yeah, I think the last time we might have chatted for any period of time was in Tokyo. I was hoping to catch you because I was there for the Olympics with NBC, and you were
Yeah,
obviously there for much loftier reasons, actually competing. But
yeah.
like two ships in the night, I think we just missed each other by a week. Yeah, if there was a time to just barely miss someone, that's quite the way to do it. So happy
Yeah,
to finally connect with you here, man.
absolutely. Yeah, I think you left like right before I got there because the Paralympics rolled in just a few days after you left. And man, it was literally like just missed it. Just missed
Yeah.
each other. But
Usually, NBC will let you, if you want to stay for an extra week, you can rebook your flights. But just given the state of the pandemic, that wasn't an option. So I would have loved to have hung out,
yeah,
especially to watch you compete. And then the weird part is I actually did the Paralympics for Beijing.
that's right.
Yeah, because I was at Super Bowl, which overlapped with the regular Olympics out there for the winter, so I
Yep.
couldn't do that. But I did Paris there, and that was just a wild experience. More so just with the pandemic restrictions in China during
Oh my
that
gosh,
time,
yeah.
and then I think while I was there, Russia invaded Ukraine while I was there,
Yep.
and so. I'm happy that you got the Tokyo experience and not the Beijing experience because one was much different than the other for the
Yeah,
pairs, I'm
no.
sure.
Yeah, my teammate Kendall Gretsch, who won gold in Tokyo for triathlon. She's a Nordic athlete as well, and she won.
Sure, yeah.
She won she I think she won I think she won three medals in Beijing. And yeah, she was telling us the same thing. She was like, "Oh my gosh, competing at two Paralympic Games 6 months apart, Tokyo, even though it was super like the restrictions and everything, like all the stuff we had to go through, it was still way better than Beijing. So it
Yes.
was pretty incredible.
Yeah,
Pretty incredible.
there's times in Beijing even where it's kind of scary, I guess. I mean, like I actually flew into Beijing and had a false positive at the airport,
Oh
but
wow.
I was convinced that I was going to be a political prisoner. I got whisked away. They wouldn't let me out of my room, and people in
Yep.
hazmat suits were coming and sticking a bunch of swabs up my nose. So
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
Tokyo was difficult, but it was really special in a lot of ways. Beijing
Yeah,
was white knuckle the whole time. So yeah,
totally.
like I said, glad you got the Tokyo experience, for
Absolutely,
sure.
man. But yeah, let's kind of dive in. I mean, like I mean, obviously we both, are have, the history of, the recent history of the Olympic and Paralympic games, you as, you on the media side, me on the athlete side. But, you know, as I said in the little intro, I mean, we go a lot further back than that, but I kind of want to dive into your background a little bit. So why don't you tell us a little bit about like, where did you grow up, and how did you find, wrestling and, sport, and how did that kind of morph into what you're doing today?
Yeah, so I'm a Florida kid, much like you.
Yep.
North Florida kid, also much like you. We grew up
Yep.
in Flagler County. So unfortunately for us, Kyle, that means we're Jags fans,
It does.
which
Although
is really
that just this past year wasn't that bad a year to be a Jags fan.
Oh, actually, yeah. I mean, man,
Going forward.
what a dichotomy of years between the Urban Meyer season and last year.
For sure.
But yeah, I grew up in Flagler County. And wrestling wise, that was really, I mean, I can't talk about myself without talking about wrestling.
Absolutely.
My dad was the wrestling coach at FPC at the high school in Flagler, which he's the athletic director there now, and he's still very active with the team. But to answer the question of how I found sports and athletics, I mean, I guess in that way, wrestling more found me. Just running around the mats as a kid, and it was never like a pressure that I had to wrestle, but you grow up around something like that, you're going to gravitate to it. And since my earliest memories, it was always wrestling. So wrestled all through high school, and met a lot of my good friends through it. You remember TJ Gillen?
Oh yeah.
UCF, and we were wrestling drill partners since we were like 5, and he'll be a special part of my life forever, and a bunch of other countless friends. So went through high school, and my senior year wasn't what I wanted, which is basically the case for every wrestler, right? Except for a very select few. You kind of leave it and you're like, man, that really wasn't how I wanted it to end. And I remember Jay Bama, who was on the show recently, I saw him at a tournament. I think it was in Lyman my senior year, and kind of put the bug in my ear that UCF did have a program, and it was NCWA, so it was kind of on the lower end of college wrestling rankings, but a serious program nonetheless that you would travel and compete, and it just made sense for me. I think I kind of hit the same decision that a lot of high school wrestlers have in Florida, because there's no D1 wrestling. It's like, do you sacrifice a lot and go wrestle for like Wartburg, which is like D2, but you're pretty much sacrificing your education and your college experience, and you're going to be away from your family, and or you could stay home and wrestle for UCF. So for me, financially and everything else, and my family means a lot to me. At that time, my brother was just getting into wrestling, and my sister was in UF in Gainesville, doing her athletic career. She was on the dance team. So, I just didn't want to miss, that family time, and it meant a lot to me. So I stayed at UCF, and just one of the best decisions I ever made, both just wrestling wise and life wise and career wise. Just like I, met a lot of people out in high school wrestling that I'm still friends with, truly, like most of my friend group I know through, UCF, and specifically the wrestling experience there. So, Obama and Rouse were just very impactful in my life. Met a lot of great people like you, Kyle, and I had Jake Powell, who I wrestled with at UCF, was my roommate for years here in New York City. I still hang out with Harrison Billig, who was on the team. We're best friends. So met a lot of really, really tremendous people there that I still stick with, and had a pretty good career at UCF. I All-American 4 times. I think the most proud I was, though, is when we won nationals my junior year. The team hadn't won in several years, and we just weren't sure if it was going to happen again, just given the state of the league with more transition teams. So for us to win as a team, my junior year was pretty awesome, and I still have the ring, and we busted out at weddings and stuff, whenever we go, with other teammates' weddings and everything. And I look back on it now, and it really is transformative in a lot of ways. Because wrestling is one of those things where I feel like it's just so crazy in the moment, and you look back and you think about it, you're like, wow, did I really do that for that long? And beat the dog crap out of each other for months, and you cut weight and squeeze in a van and travel across the country for 14-hour drives, and then come back in the same weekend. And I don't think you really realize the impact of wrestling until far after you get done, and you kind of realize even though you've stopped kind of just the act of wrestling, you're always thinking about things through a wrestling lens. And you could be doing anything else. After I wrestled, I did like some jujitsu and MMA for a little bit just because I just couldn't let go of the competitive itch. And my body wasn't broken down that bad yet, so I could get away with it. But like even through that training, I always approached it as a wrestler. And then even in my career, shortly after that, I got started at NBC right out of school, which I was very lucky to do, mostly with golf in Orlando. And working in television is tough. It's crazy hours, it's long hours, it's very stressful. And like, I still approach that even through a wrestling mindset most of the time. And I would owe a lot of my success in my career through those moments in wrestling, and just having like the grit and creative problem solving and tenacity, and all the lessons you learn through wrestling. Even though you leave the sport, in your mind, it's you never really stop wrestling. And so yeah, through that I've had some pretty good success in television as well, and a lot of good memories. I was down in Orlando for like a good 7 years with golf, and then right before the pandemic, as perfectly timed in 2019, like winter of 2019, I moved to New York to mostly do Olympic stuff, and the pandemic hit, obviously. So perfect timing. But made it through the pandemic, and still with NBC now. Right now I'm producing a show with Matthew Berry, the fantasy football guy, and we're doing a during season, it's a everyday show, fantasy football happy hour. I also do a lot of Olympic stuff. Like I said, we just chatted about Tokyo and Beijing, and hopefully Paris next year. We'll see. But yeah, no, it's been a good career, and now I'm here talking to you, man.
Wow, man. Yeah, no, it's crazy because like you talk about the just that looking at everything through that wrestling lens, like I think I talked with Balma a little bit about it. It's just like, man, it just once you've wrestled, it really does permeate all of your life, and you can't shake it. Like no matter what, like I mean I haven't stepped on a wrestling mat in over 10 years, and like it's like those lessons still affect me even when I'm out swimming, biking, and running, and out traveling around the world, all that. Like it's just, yeah, no, it's really amazing. So like thinking back on it, like when you look at your your high school versus your college career, at least in wrestling, what were kind of the stark differences, or like did you learn different lessons high school versus college?
Yeah, definitely. I think if we were to get into like the nitty gritty of it in a technical and competitive aspect,
Oh yeah.
the like in high school you can get away with a lot just because the level of competition is not that great. So
Yeah.
you could get cute with some stuff, and headlock kids, and it's not as intensive. I think there's a lot of fine tuning in college.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have the specifics down. You have to, it's where like small minute differences really end up being the deciding factor most of the time. And it's for me, it took a long time to realize like my hand fighting wasn't as great as it was in high school. So I feel like it's just like in life, like the more competitive and the better you get, the more you realize it's the little things that end up making or breaking you. And in college, it really is all about like the little adjustments. And
Yep.
like my brother now, he's very lucky and extremely talented. He's wrestling at Northwestern at Division I, and he's amazing. I'm so proud of him. And he's a 2-time All-American, and just been at the national tournament. He's qualified, I believe, 4 times.
Wow.
And so we have the same conversations about like he the kid that pinned Spencer Lee the other week.
Yep.
Michael had beat pretty significantly 9-1 major at Big Tens in the semifinals. and that kid was
Wow.
national finals. Yeah. And so Michael, you get to that level and you realize like all of these kids that are, very, very good on any given day can beat each other because it's just small little tiny things, and they're, whether it's like permanent adjustments in your day-to-day life, or maybe it was a small thing that just happened that day. um it's just, you get to a certain level and it's just the tiniest things matter. And like I said, that was probably the biggest lesson I learned between college and high school. And I, like everything else in life, in wrestling and life, I think they correlate. And I think you could probably say that about anything
Sure.
competitive or career wise. Like you just, it's the little things that truly pile up and matter. And I'm sure you've learned that in your Paralympic journey. And sometimes it's something that you don't think is significant, and you're like, oh wow, it made a huge difference
Yeah, no,
in everything I
it's
do.
yeah, it's amazing. Like my um my current coach, my triathlon coach tells me all the time, and we have this philosophy on our team that is, just do simple well. And like, simple doesn't necessarily mean easy, but like it's just doing the simple things, of eating right, sleeping, practicing good form and good form and technique. And I flash back, anytime we talk about that, I flash back to, you know to the wrestling room, and it's like that's all, you know that's all guys like you were telling me to do as well. Like, wrestle well, and learn to wrestle well on your feet, learn to, be aggressive and hand fight. It's just these little things, get strong in the gym. Like if you just follow the basics and do them to a high standard consistently, you're gonna be pretty successful, whether that's in the wrestling room or, going on beyond then, in life. So yeah, no, totally get you there, man. Totally. But yeah, no, I wanna revisit that national championship season for you guys, because I got to, I think we had a barbecue at Coach Rouse's house when you guys got your rings, and that was a cool thing for me, because like I mean, I went to, in my high school, we were not known for sport. We were an academic, an academic high school. And so like UCF was kind of the first chance that I got to, come into a winning program, a winning culture, and a winning team. And like being there when you guys opened your ring boxes and, you know talked all about, that run up to winning the national tournament. Like, talk us through that season, and, kind of that culmination a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that season was the season was good. And I think we knew at a certain point that we were putting together a pretty good season and would have a run. um I think it was between us and like Apprentice, who had won the year before, um who were very good that year. Also, I believe they beat Davidson, which is the D1 team, in the dual meet that year. So I knew that it was going to come down to us, and it wasn't going to be easy. The one memory I distinctly remember was after the quarterfinals, I believe, of nationals. I think every single one of us lost. Um,
Ooh.
and I Bama, who I love Jay to death, but he could be a little bit more delicate sometimes with his pep talks. He's a little abrasive in a very coachy way sometimes.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he calls us. We had like a little meeting in the hallway, and he just ripped into everyone, and deservedly so. If you have a national contending team, just all drop out of the championship bracket. And myself included. And at that point, our 25 pounder was Frito, who was my drill partner, and he was tremendous. And we really had a bad round. And then after Jay got done kind of ripping us to shreds, we all kind of huddled together as a team. And just talked it out, and we kind of just all huddled up and, hey, like everyone needs to just go out there and handle their business one at a time and, not get overwhelmed with this and, don't let it snowball on you. And that's just a very important wrestling lesson, right? Like it's, I think I own the record, I think, for most wins still in NCWA. But that sounds like an accomplishment, but really what it means is that I spent a lot of time in the Wrestlebacks, which means I've lost a lot too. I'm just gotten very good at coming back from losing, which is a life skill in its own, I guess, that I owe
Yeah.
wrestling. But mentally, and you've been in the Wrestlebacks, we all have. It's like definitely a mindset of, tough skin, and you just gotta move on, and don't let things kind of pile up on top of you. So, we kind of talked about that, after that round, and we all just ended up winning a lot. I think everyone on the team virtually either in the Conci finals or, maybe fifth and sixth. We were all very high placers, and
Yeah.
team ended up winning with no finalist, which is bananas to think about, but that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
crazy because like the following year, I mean, we had you and Rippy were both finalists, and I think we took second or third that year. But like, man, like overall, but yeah, no, that's crazy to think that. I actually didn't realize that you guys had no finalists. I thought you or Rippy at least would have gotten to the finals or
No,
someone would have.
I believe I took oh no, I'm sorry. No, Frito wasn't. It was Cherry was there. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So I think Cherry ended up taking third. I think I took fourth. Rippy, I think, took third. Yeah, I think we all placed pretty high, and it was pretty wild to like, because our expectations were very low, and very proud of all of us for kind of putting that bad round behind us and finding a way to get some rings. And like I said, it's just, I think it's more about, the memories and what they mean, because
Sure.
like I individually, that wasn't, my best tournament, and my best performance, but I just remember having that group of guys, and all of us kind of coming together and fighting through that, and that's what that ring really means. I don't really go around and brag to people about it, and still,
No.
but it's more personally for me, and like I said, anytime we get married, someone on the team gets married, we bust them out and we talk about it, and it's just a good gift that wrestling, gives you, is those memories and, those lessons and stuff.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yeah. And then the very next year, I rolled into the old wrestling room, and man, like just just reflecting back on that, I'm kind of curious. You had been named the captain. So you were our leader, of the team, and what was kind of your take on this lumbering blind kid who had a little bit of could wrestle and was kind of tough, but I learned I learned very quickly, especially in our summer practices, that the college level was a lot different than high school. So kind of what were your initial impressions when I kind of rolled in, and like I'm actually just curious to see what growth did you see from over the course of my season and a half or 2 seasons or whatever. I can't remember. I think it was a season and a half of wrestling with UCF.
Yeah, no, I think my initial reactions were, because I had never wrestled with anyone on a team in that position. But yeah, I mean, it's just, like whether it's just giving opportunities, to women, and a special set of rules for people that are blind, and I mean, up in St. Augustine, Florida School for Deaf and Blind. Like they always
Oh
had a
yeah.
wrestling team. So, you know, it is something nice about wrestling that, you know, affords some opportunities for people in that situation. And so I wasn't like shocked or taken aback. I was like, oh, this is cool. I think
Yeah.
the most shocking thing was how tough of a hand fighter you were. And that was the first thing I remember was, you know, because, you know, for those that don't know, like when you're wrestling someone that's blind, you have to always maintain physical contact. And so because of that, the distance is always very close. And I remember kids on the team complaining because they would leave with like black eyes and stuff from wrestling Kyle Kuhn for just like forearm bashing them in the head and stuff. But I was like, man, that's awesome. I actually really respect that. And so throughout the year, I, you know, the physicality of it, I always respected a lot. I think the growth was for the mat wrestling when you're on top, because you know there's ways to be aggressive on top, but you have to learn how to turn that into points. And I remember you had a really good power half, and at certain points of the year, you're able to kind of fine tune that aggressiveness into like back points and pins and turning kids. And I think a lot of people underestimated you in that way and weren't expecting that kind of like just hard nosed wrestling.
Yeah.
You always knew that Kyle Kuhn was going to bring it. So that growth was, I thought, really special. That throughout the year, because I also I helped Jay out my 5th year too, which you were
Yep.
so on the team. So I had a couple of years watching you wrestle, and I think the biggest jump from year 1 to year 2 is, like I said, it's kind of like little adjustments. So little adjustments in hand fighting to where it's, you know, you're not just, you know, throwing forearms, but you're setting up shots, and, you know,
Yep.
little adjustments on top where you're not just cross facing, but you're also finding ways to power half and set up cradles and other stuff. So
Yep.
yeah, you grew a lot in that first season. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was pretty cool to watch.
No, that's awesome. No, I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but at the end of the season, you guys we always did gag gifts. And I remember, and this was, I'm no stranger to practical jokes. I'm no stranger to, you know, poking fun at myself and, you know, fun at everyone else. But still one of the best gag gifts I've received to this day was you guys gave me a pair of those like slinky eyeball glasses, if you remember those. Like,
Well, yeah, I do remember. Well, the story, I believe the story behind this was, I think we were at we were in Tallahassee for the
Yep.
FAMU tournament.
Yep.
And I think you popped out one of your eyes in the stands, and someone on the team, I think, just like almost fainted. And it was like, and you were like cackling, and I mean, it was just, I think TJ was pretty psyched out about it. So we found those classes, and we're like, oh man, this is perfect for Kyle. Like,
Yep.
which I'm assuming you have that trick in your bag and you bust that out every once in a while amongst friends, because
every once in a while, you know, it makes a reappearance. So yeah,
yeah,
no,
I think you got the reaction you wanted.
It was entertaining
yeah.
for sure. It was entertaining. But no, that you know, you know, so I tell people all the time, like that's actually how I won my first ever wrestling match. You know, my freshman year of high school was, you know, a kid, you know, the kid, you know, popped up out of you know, went to stand, and actually his shoulder caught me below the eye and my eye fell out. And I was able to catch it, and you know, they stopped the match long enough for me to put it back in. And he quickly submitted. And
Wow.
I pinned him like within 30 seconds. But so it was always a classic, you know, to pop the eye out, especially once I got to know people. But yeah, no, it was I still remember that gag gift fondly, because that was when I kind of knew that it's like, these guys could, poke fun and have and respect me now. So that's like the highest form of flattery for me.
It didn't take long for you to fit in, man. Yeah, and like I think a lot of the respect, like I said, was, you were just a tough wrestler, and I think it's easy, in any sport really, like if someone can come out and mix it up and compete and they're serious, because truthfully, like there was a lot of kids on the team that, I think viewed our program as, unserious and, would just show up once every few weeks and, be all boozed up. And, I remember like chasing kids off and being like, you can't be in here. Like, we're trying to compete for a national title. You have to add to the room. Like, what are you, like, this isn't, like a fun thing. Like, we're all sacrificing a lot over the course of 5 months.
Yeah.
And that was obviously never the case with you. You're there every day, overcoming obstacles to be there every day. I always remember seeing you with Tyrone on campus and walking, from the dorms. I think you lived over in like past the rec center, right?
I did. I lived right behind the rec center. I think it was, what was it? I think I lived in Hercules. So yeah, no, I lived in, Hercules, and then, lived in, and then, all of my classes were on the opposite side of campus in the communication building. So
yeah, I see you and your puppy all around campus, and, you're always at practice, always on time. It's easy to respect someone like that. And there's people that, weren't sacrificing or overcoming obstacles that you were to be there, and they were a lot less serious about it. So yeah, it didn't really take long, I think, for everyone to really kind of, gravitate towards you and realize, hey, this kid, he's can't see and he's got to overcome some extra things, but at the end of the day, he's serious about the sport and the team and wants to be here. So if you want to be there, people want to have you. And there's no question that, you definitely added to the room in a lot of ways.
I appreciate that, man. Really appreciate that. So I kind of want to, shift gears a little bit and kind of move into your post college, wrestling career. And I want to talk about, like, how did you settle on it and decide that you wanted to go into, essentially, broadcast journalism, television, sports? Like, how did you find an interest in that? And, why did you decide to pursue that as aggressively as you did? And now, and like you said, you're producing shows with NBC and, covering the Olympics and Paralympics. Like, walk us through that story.
Yeah, sure. So I guess my interest in like television and media started in high school, and me and a buddy of mine, we were just kind of goofballs. We did like the morning news in high school, and very not dedicated or to the craft in any way. Just wanted to like be on TV for the campus and be fools in front of everyone. And then I got into college and I was like, oh, that could be like a fun career to like be a TV personality or something and do sports. So, I kind of get on that track, but I wasn't even like very super sure about that even then. And, I ended up double majoring because, digital media also really interested me, like web design and stuff, which, oddly enough, now those two worlds are almost essentially the same with how the media landscape's changed, with like streaming and YouTube. I mean, now it's like traditional television takes a backseat to all that in a lot of ways. So yeah, I mean, over time, I just, I was doing all these internships and stuff, and most of the internships were just me wanting to have fun. Like I did an internship for the radio station in town, WJRR, and just went to a bunch of rock concerts and, filmed a bunch of stuff. And then I did an internship with Marvel Comics in New York, which again wasn't really anything to do with TV. It was just, oh, this would be cool to do. Go work for a comic book company in New York City. And
why not?
Yeah. So, and then I think I needed like a TV internship to graduate college. And the Golf Channel came in and gave a speech, and not that I ever particularly really liked golf that much, but they had their whole pitch was that they were owned by NBC, and like they had the Peacock, and a big driving factor was like, oh, this could be cool. Like maybe one day I could parlay this into doing like an Olympics.
Yeah.
Because obviously growing up as a wrestler, like that's the ultimate goal for anything, whether it's to go watch it, or let alone cover it or compete in it, so I ended up getting that internship, and I always thought it would be like kind of brief, but I just loved Orlando so much and was close to family. At the time I was still doing jujitsu and MMA, and I was at American Top Team in Orlando, so my gym was there, and I ended up just staying for a long time. And my first Olympics while I was there was in Rio. And that was just very transformative to me. I mean, doing like one Olympics is life-changing. I feel like it's like, and I'm not even talking about competing, that's obviously very life-changing. But like from a media standpoint, it's kind of like media summer camp. Like,
Yeah.
because when I was there, I was working in a department with like producers from like Nightly News and Today Show and NBC News and like all across the company. And then in addition to that, you're also in this, the main building's called the IBC, the International Broadcast Center, which you might have even seen it or walked through it when you're there for the Paris. But like you're there, like NBC has like a corner of that building, but so does like the BBC, so does like all the Japanese networks, everything, like every media outlet in the world is there, and you just walk through the halls and like you trade pins, like your NBC pins for like an NHK Japanese pin, and with some other media member, and it's just really cool. It's like one of the only things I feel like where the whole world's there. And then obviously covering wrestling, like I was there to see Helen Maroulis win gold, and we were like the first interview off the mat with her. And then on the flip side, like when Jordan Burroughs lost, we were there, and it was just devastating just to be there and listen to him, not medal after being like world and Olympic champion in London. So just crazy, experience there in Rio. And once I did that, I was like, okay, this is definitely like the right decision, what I wanted to do. So I just, stuck with NBC and ended up doing the Winter Olympics in Korea, and then Tokyo, and then Beijing. And, now, living up in New York, I do like a wide variety of stuff. Like I did hockey for a bit, did some horse racing stuff, but television, I think, like I said earlier, excuse me, it reminds me of a lot of like, like just wrestling. It's just a lot of sacrifice. It's it's crazy hours. It's you'll work every hour of the day in television. You'll work overnights, you'll work every holiday. And I remember like in wrestling, you're like missing out on everything. You're missing out on Thanksgiving, and you're missing out on Christmas dinners, and you're not partying on New Year's Eve because you have a tournament. So like to me it was difficult, but that challenge was familiar just through my background. And now it's a 10 plus year career I've made out of it. So it's been good. So it's been good to me. And we're kind of my sister Jacqueline's also on TV.
I was gonna say, because I've done some I've chatted with Jacqueline a couple of times, and I think she's now in she works for CBS Sports now, I think, right? Is that
she does? Yeah. So
it's a little family
she's
competition.
No, I'm her biggest fan. No, she does very, very well. She so I tell Jacqueline a lot because she grew up in a wrestling family, and family of all guys, and she never wrestled, so I know that was not easy. But I think Jacqueline might be like mentally like she has those same abilities. And like what I've told her before was like there's the act of wrestling, right? Which is like you step on a mat that's 32 feet in diameter, 3 feet apart from your opponent, and you shake hands, wrestle. And like sometimes the rules change, like whether it's like sumo wrestling or whatever, but the premise is pretty much the same. And then
Yep.
there's the state of wrestling, which is like the mental act of wrestling with something, and everyone that's ever been good at the act of wrestling has been good at the state of wrestling, but you don't have to be good at the state of wrestling or you don't have to be good at the act of wrestling to be good at the state of wrestling, like that mental part of it. And that's kind of what we talked about earlier. It's like after you get done wrestling, you always think of things from that worldview. And Jacqueline's very good at that. She's just tough. She's just like, gonna grind day in and day out to get where she wants to be, and do it with like a smile on her face. And, in that way she has a lot of those, wrestler like traits. So even though our whole family is very, we have uncles in the Hall of Fame, my dad's in the Hall of Fame, and,
Yep.
Michael's a multiple time All-American, and, I've had success, and, she might be the toughest one out of all of us, just, what she's fought through to get where she's at now, which is, anchoring a major national wide sports program. So yeah, she went through like the local news grind, which is truly a grind.
Oh yeah.
And I'm proud of her. She kicks ass. So she's done well.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. Yeah, man. No, it's pretty incredible. I mean, the DeAugustino family, man, you guys are pretty special. I mean, like you said, I mean, you got, dad, your dad's in the Wrestling Hall of Fame. You got uncles. I mean, yourself. I mean, your little brother is, I mean, to be honest, man, he's outdone you at least on the wrestling mat.
There's no question that Michael's outdone me. I remember,
yeah.
So Michael, I don't know if you remember him running around, and
Oh
he
yeah,
was a
man.
little gremlin at our
Oh
matches,
yeah.
and he would always just like punch kids in the nuts, and just he always wanted to like wrestle kids, and
Yeah.
he was a big part, like, he like idolized Cherry. He just loved watching Cherry wrestle, and I think even like a lot of those kids shaped who he was growing up in high school. And like even now, like when his home dual meets, when he like runs out on the mat, his entrance music is the Zombie Nation UCF song. So
Oh, I love it.
I know that, I think that it was impactful for him to see high level wrestling at a young age.
Yep.
But he was always very hell bent on like, I'm going to break all your records. And, he was like really motivated to do that. And, I knew that I was just holding those for him, like
Sure.
I know he was always going to be very good. And honestly, like, I was there, coaching him. If he wasn't good, that was a failure on my part as an older brother
Yeah.
and coach. So of course
Yeah.
I wanted him to do very, very well. So, he broke my high school record and was more successful than me in high school. And, and he, I mean, he went through some really bad stuff in his senior year. He tore his ACL
Oh,
very, very early, and didn't end up getting to compete at all his senior year, which, truthfully, after the years he had, and, the momentum and everything, he probably would have walked through the state tournament. So to have that
yeah.
taken away from him, because wrestling like breaks everyone down. And when you're going through it, it's obviously hard, but like to watch, your baby brother do it, and like it was really tough when we were at the doctor, and they were like, it's basically point blank, like, hey, it's over, like you can't wrestle. And there's a lot of tears, and it was hard to see him go through that. But at the same time, that's part of wrestling, right? And
Yep.
it's like you go through that in wrestling, and it's almost like a trial run for like the rest of your life, because you're going to get beat up on, and not just like beat up on from an opponent in a mat, but like the sport's just going to beat you up, and you're going to work really hard, and you're not going to get what you want, and then you're going to have to come back from it. And that's just a good primer for life in general. And so really truly, like once you get done with wrestling and you apply those lessons through your life, down the road you realize like, wow, that's what the sport gave me, and made me who I am. And so he went through all that, and it was really hard, but I know that the way he bounced back to not only get at a Division I program, but wrestle his way to a starting lineup and become like a multiple time national qualifier, and All-American for like a kid that was never even really looked at out of high school. Like that was all just him coming back. So he learned those lessons. And, I know that, I think he's got like 1 year left of eligibility. So I
Oh,
remember,
wow.
yeah, I remember like my senior year at UCF, like coming off that last mat and like last match of the national finals, like I was really, really upset, but it wasn't really as much because I lost. It was more just because I was like, the ride's over and
Yeah.
you have to reinvent yourself after that. And
Yeah.
that, reinventing and learning how to reframe your life post wrestling is hard. Like a lot of people
Hmm.
struggle with it, but like that's like everything else, like when, you lost your vision, that you had to reinvent, and
Yep.
you got done with wrestling and you had to reinvent, and
Yep.
you've done that with flying colors. And that's basically what everyone has to do all through your life, whether you wrestle or not. So what you learn in wrestling helps you with that a lot. And, Mike's going to have to go through that. And his just wild success of this sport is a lot of it in credit due to him being able to get through adversity. And, I know he'll continue just to be great because of those lessons. And, you're going to continue to be great because of those same lessons of just constantly putting your head down and just bulldogging through. And you might lose something or lose a moment or, have to change, but like through your experiences in wrestling, you're always going to do that to a high degree. So I know that's where both you and I both are where we're at because of those lessons.
100%, man. Yeah. Now I honestly can't think of a better way to kind of wrap this up than with that, man. Like I love what you said about the act versus the state of wrestling. That wrestling mindset, that resilience mindset, and you and your entire family. I mean, yourself, Jacqueline, Michael, you guys all. I mean, the entire DeAugustino family. Um, you know, we may not have been as close over the years, but just seeing it from afar and following all of you guys over the course of years, and having those interactions with your family, that definitely that's impacted me. The sport of wrestling has impacted you know you and your entire family, and just so many lessons that you've learned and you continue to carry on. So but I kind of want to just one more question, kind of
Sure.
what's next, like, is the plan to continue on with NBC, or like, do you have any other future goals, or like, what's kind of what's kind of the idea, the plan moving forward?
Yeah, no, definitely want to stick with NBC for a bit. And Paris, next year, man. So right now that's an immediate goal. We'll see how things play out.
Yeah.
And hopefully, yeah, maybe I'll catch you this time over there
Yeah,
finally.
finally, man. Yeah, no, hopefully, my qualification window opens up on July 1st. So I'll know by, July 1st of 20. Well, I'll probably know July 1st of 2024 whether I'm for sure going. But yeah, no, hopefully we manage to make it happen
I will
this
yeah,
time.
I'll bring a UCF wrestling shirt in the suitcase just in case. So if I
Perfect.
do catch you competing out there, they'll know where we came from.
Nice, man. Nice. Charge on, bro.
Yeah.
Love it, man. Love it. Well, Steven, man, thanks so much for taking the time. I know, as you said, the TV world is, I guess I should say the media world, because it's call it television, call it media, whatever you want to call it, but it's a 24-hour a day uh, job and lifestyle. So I know you're crazy busy and all that. So thanks so much for taking some time to chat today. And
Yeah.
it's just
No,
great catching up with you, bro.
yeah, entirely my pleasure, Kyle. And yeah, don't be a stranger, man. Anytime, just give me a shout. Love hearing from you.
Absolutely, bro. Well, everyone, Thanks for tuning into another episode of Kicking It with the KTrain. I think you can tell, just this guy, Steven DeAugustino has definitely helped me keep an eye on my vision, from being my wrestling, team captain back at UCF to, just a good friend and confidant over the years. And I hope his stories and his insights will help you all keep an eye on your vision. So until next time, keep an eye on your vision, everybody. Take care.